Hello, and welcome to The Reading Room, the podcast brought to you by your Rowan County Public Library. I'm Morgan.
I'm Atlanta.
And I'm Jordan.
And this month is almost over, which is very unfortunate, because it means Halloween is closer, but it also means, you only get one of those a year.
Oh, gosh. Looking forward to next year.
Yeah, it's
already counting down from 365.
It's only 372 days till next Halloween. And I'm really excited actually because we usually do some sort of dress up event for Halloween, and this will be your first time actually.
I've never worked anywhere that has done anything like that.
Yeah, so last year we didn't do much with it because we were shut down.
Last year I was a cat, but that mostly consisted of just cat ears. I think last year it was just, if you have a costume and you want to wear it on Halloween, you can, but we didn't really have anything big going on. Yeah,
we were so shut down that there kind of wasn't a point. But this year we're open enough that we get to celebrate it a bit. And so usually some of the staff will dress up as literary characters. There's always a Mad Hatter. There's a Cat in the Hat, that kind of thing. We have a Winnie the Pooh out front today because tonight, the date of this recording, is Fall Fun Night. So by the time that you're listening to this, that will have already come and gone. I hope that you went and had a good time and saw Pete the Cat and did the sing-along. All of that stuff, is on Facebook. And I am really looking forward to our next event, which is going to be Read for the Record. And I hope that it pans out well, because we have had some difficulties with that one. We're still waiting on the books to come in, and we're not the only library. So I don't know. You can't read for the record if you don't have a book to read.
Where do we begin?
Yeah. And I think that's just the continuing new normal, I guess, that we're all dealing with. And we know
it seems like everyone everywhere has shipping delays going on now.
Yeah. And that's part of it. It's been difficult for us to get books for giveaways for events, to send home to kids, things like that. Just like it's been difficult to get school supplies and so forth. Yeah. And so we're hoping to return, and say this every time. I feel like a broken record. I'm out here like Cassandra, speaking truth, but no one will believe me because it's been said so many times. Next month we'll go back to normal programming. I can't wait. We're gonna have writers workshop, and we're gonna have anime club, and we're gonna have tech classes. And then November comes around, and it's so I regret to inform you that yet again we have postponed and or canceled all the things. And that's always unfortunate. And of course, as this rolls on, everything does remain subject to cancellation, but hopefully Read for the Record won't be canceled. You know what else is not canceled? Our pumpkin pageant.
Oh my gosh. It looks so good out there already.
It really does. We've gotten so many entries. And of course, Atlanta and I got to look forward to this because this is the third time that we've done it, but this is your first time seeing it.
This is my favorite season, so I'm really into everything that we're doing right now for October.
Yeah, we've gotten the last few years to get really creative with some of the programming, and the pumpkin pageant, we've gotten so many good entries, and I'm really excited because this year, for the first time, there's a staff category. Mm-hmm. We talked about that last time, and there's going to be some interesting submissions for that that I'm very much looking forward to. We've already got so many good ones, and I don't want to bias anybody, so I'm not going to talk about my favorites, but I do have them.
Yeah, me
and
too.
If you have picked out your favorite, then don't forget, by the time you're listening to this, today's the last day to enter. If you're listening after 5 p.m. when we closed, it's too late.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Paint next year.
I'll have mine in on Saturday. I work Saturdays, so I'm bringing it in.
There you go, last minute, coming in clutch. Yeah. But Monday is when the voting begins, and this year we're going to be voting in person and online, I believe.
Oh, yes. That's awesome.
Yes, so we've got a Facebook event. There is a space on the page where we are going to post pictures of all of the different entries and all of the different categories. And of course, we've got all the, divided by age category. Mm-hmm. So we will have slips and a ballot box underneath the big map in the atrium, right by the circulation desk. You can come vote in person, or you can go on Facebook and you can comment on the photo of your favorite submission. Just remember, only one vote per category. We'll be watching.
The first one counts.
Yes, the first one counts.
Don't vote in person and online.
Yeah.
Just one.
Yeah, just one. Just one. And then we will tally those up, and at the end of the week, we will announce who won, and winners in each category are going to get a pretty sweet pack of art supplies. Yeah, so I'm hoping that encourages people to enter again next year and to do.
I'm excited about that.
Do their best.
I kind of hope I win now.
I've heard the art supplies are really good too. Miss Jess just went and picked them all out, and I think she spent over $400.
Oh my goodness!
I think there's only 5 or 6 different kits, so you might have some pretty good stuff in there.
Yeah. See, I wanted to submit a pumpkin for fun, but now I want to win.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm in it to win it, like not just for the exposure.
The competition is there.
Oh, and speaking of competition, actually, you have finally picked out your staff picks, right?
I did. I'm the worst at picking them out. Decided that since I run staff picks, for lack of a better word, I have to decide last. I have to do it after everyone has already picked theirs out. But I did. I picked mine. Our buzzwords for staff picks this quarter are sweet and sour, or sour and sweet, whichever order makes the most sense to you. And I kind of was inspired, Morgan, by your idea of like the opposites attract. For my sour, I went with an opposites attract type of thing. I did Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston.
Oh my gosh.
I love that. And it is so much about opposites attracting. There are these two boys just hate each other. Like, really absolutely hate each other.
They do.
The son of the first female president of the United States and the prince of England, I believe.
Yeah. It's such a Lifetime movie kind of story. It's like, but I loved reading it.
Oh yeah, the commitment to every character that is shown, and the commitment to the hatred followed by whatever else may happen between these two characters. It's just a beautiful tale.
Yeah, the whole like enemies to friends trope is, it's a trope for a reason.
Oh yeah.
I think we said this when we discussed it last time. Like, is it cliche? Sure. Is it a good cliche?
Yeah.
Weren't we all raised to know that the boy pulling our hair was just flirting with us?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's like a totally separate, gross thing. Boys will be boys, and they can do it way over there on the other side of the playground.
Well, then when the girls are bossy, they're just like,
Well, there you go. Yeah, that's what it is. It makes me think of Eddie Izzard's routine. Which routine was that? Was it Circle, Dress to Kill? Where he's talking about not understanding as a child how to express his affection for the girl he likes. And
oh my God.
It's like, do you like bread? I've got a French loaf, and just smack. I love you.
I think it'll work for me. I love French loaf.
If somebody came up and offered me bread, it's like, raking garlic bread into my purse kind of thing.
That's
it's like,
the German in me. I love bread. Quality bread.
Oh, I could go for a soft pretzel.
Yeah.
My other sour pick was a little bit of a stretch, but there's this really awesome book that I read. It's called the Call Me Ishmael phone book.
Ooh.
So you might be familiar with Call Me Ishmael. It's the first line of Moby Dick. But the Call Me Ishmael phone book is actually kind of like what it sounds like. It's a phone book. Where you call this phone number, and then the book has all these different extensions, and the extensions are based on how a book made someone feel, or the extension is just a book title. And when you type in that extension, you get to hear a voicemail that someone out there in the real world left for this phone book about how reading has impacted them.
Oh.
So, like, it's even based on, like, mood sections or personality sections. Like, you can look up something sad or tear-jerking, and there will be a bunch of different numbers on there, and you just call and listen to somebody talking about
That's
how...
like the most creative thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
It's on the staff picks. Check it out.
Definitely.
A few times I've sat at the front desk and called up and like listened to a few different ones.
That is really cool.
They can be really impactful. I heard one about a man whose life was changed whenever he read Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and I don't know how the book specifically affected that, but he talked about like him and his daughter reading it together while he was in the hospital with cancer.
Oh, wow.
And so, like, you just get to those small lifetime moments that really stick with you and stick with readers based on what books we're reading. It's all collected and compiled into one big book.
That's amazing, because I think reading in general really affects everyone on such a deep level in different ways, and nobody ever really talks about it. You never get to really hear about that.
Well, we've discussed that on the podcast before, how, like, when you engage with a book, everyone engages differently. No one has an identical experience.
Right.
So even if the writing is done really well and a character or a scene or an event provokes a specific reaction that the author intended to provoke, you're still going to experience that emotion or that reaction differently based on your own personal context.
Yeah.
So this actually kind of reminds me of Emery and I talked about I think it was one of his previous staff picks, or maybe it's a pleasant surprise segment. But you were involved in this tangentially because you remember S.
Oh god.
Which is basically like an AR experience of a book. It's a book in a box, sort of, but when you pull it out, it has all of these inserts, it has all of these like post-it notes, postcards, things like that are all part of the story that bring it together, and you're meant to interact with the book as an experience that has links and roots out in the real world. And that has even engendered a community of all of these different people who are all experiencing it together at the same time, who are talking about their theories, their version of the mystery, what they think that the ending means, and so forth when they get to the end, or basically what ending they created, because it kind of doesn't have one.
Yeah.
And this sounds like that. Call Me Ishmael is like, or the Call Me Ishmael phone book. It requires a live interactive component. It's not something that you just sit and passively read. It is something that you have to actively engage, and everyone's going to take something different away from it because it's real people. That kind of stuff
amazes me. I think Emery had I think it was called like the Book of Theseus or something.
That's the same thing.
Yes.
Ship of Theseus.
Yes.
The Ship of Theseus.
Yeah, Ship of Theseus is the book that's part of the S project.
Wow.
It was created by the director, J.J. Abrams. I think it was just an idea popping around in his head for a while, and he didn't know how to bring it to an audience, and maybe he just slapped it all down onto papers and said, here you go, because even now the audience doesn't really know how to receive it.
Yeah, which I think is really interesting because it's described as a love letter to literature or to the world of reading, which I think is great because it is by its very nature something that when you engage it, you have to take into account that like it has the meaning you give it.
Yeah.
There isn't a quote unquote canon ending. So like the mystery that you're solving, the story that you're building as you go through these clues, depending on the order that you go through them and exactly what conclusions you draw about who the made up author is that wrote Ship of Theseus and so on, all of that's going to be very personal. And so it is meant to make you love the idea of experiencing the book. And the Call Me Ishmael phone book, that's kind of the same thing. You're engaging different people and they're giving their reasons for like, this is why reading mattered to me. This is how it changed my life. And I think that's amazing to just be out there. And that's the only reason it exists, is just to make you like, it's an end unto itself.
That definitely gives books in general so much more life when it makes it interactive. And like anybody else, if anything has like an open ending, it drives me insane.
Yeah.
But in such a good way. I mean, that almost makes it better because that makes people, you don't forget about it. If you read a book and it has an ending, you move on to the next book and that's it. But when you read something that it's kind of left up to interpretation, that causes a lot of people to become obsessed.
Yeah, like
it stays with you.
Exactly. Even without having read it yet myself, I have a level of investment that I don't automatically have with other books because I want to know if I am taking part in creating this story by reading it. Like, that's a really incredible way to engage something.
For sure.
So
they published the phone number, and it was for anyone, anywhere to call in and leave a voicemail. So I would say it's still going on now, and maybe there will be new books later, but it's at least a website.
That's really cool.
It feels like a conversation. It is so interesting.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
What were your sweet picks? Because the sour picks, I mean,
they're kind of sweet already.
Yeah, well, I mean, you knocked it out of the park. So
one of my sweet picks I read recently, and it kind of goes along with the idea of sour and sweet. I again mixed them. It's called Honor Girl, and it's a graphic novel, actually, a nonfiction graphic novel about a girl that goes to a summer camp and she shoots the rifle, she meets people, but most importantly, she's struggling with her feelings and emotions toward one of the camp counselors, who is also a female. And it's on my sweet side because I like the bittersweetness of, like, it is a nice story about being at a summer camp and stuff like that. I found it very relatable to my personal story and journey, but it's got some sour. Don't read it looking for a happy story. And for people that have lived through a situation like that, it's not always going to have a happy ending.
That kind of puts me in the mind of Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me.
Yeah,
that's one of the reasons that I chose that for one of mine, because it is bittersweet. The ending is not a romantic ending, but the journey to me still has those sweet elements, and it still is a positive ending. Even if it's not a happy ending, it's a positive ending because it's about the character journey and the character growth and development, and that's kind of what that sounds like, which I love. I think that it's a little in the box, it's a little pat to write these tropey stories, which it's not that they don't have value, but there's just a lot of stories out there where you have an unrequited love, and then someone thinks really hard about it and feels a lot of feelings, and then there's a little bit of drama in the middle, and they work it out and they wind up together and everyone's happy. And it's like, that's often not how it works.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's cool to see this, especially a nonfiction graphic novel, because I think that's a genre that we need more of. People, when they think graphic novel, they think comic book.
Yeah.
And too often that is the case, like it is fiction, which that's great, that's fine. But I like seeing nonfiction graphic novels. I like seeing biographical graphic novels. Biographic novel?
That brings it more life again. It makes it more interactive.
Exactly. Yeah. Not only does it open it up to other audiences, but I think anyone can benefit from having a story told in a different way, in a different medium.
I've gotten really into the nonfiction graphic novels lately. I've read a lot of them. But I think the reason I ended up putting it on the sweet side was kind of like you said, it has an ending that's not necessarily a good happy ending, but it's an ending that looks like real life. It's an ending that reflects what we do experience rather than the happy, frilly ending that not so many people get.
Yeah, and sometimes that's not a fairy tale ending. Sometimes it's just an ending that leaves it open, like, okay, this person's going to keep moving forward. This is the beginning of a new chapter. And that's a happy ending too. We don't recognize that enough.
Yeah.
We got to take the experience from what we've learned and move forward.
Yeah, like that's still a win.
Yeah. The other one, oh my gosh. I can't believe this honestly may have been on my staff picks before, because if it hasn't, I wouldn't believe it if you told me that it hasn't. All of this is to say, this is one of my favorite books in the entire world, and I think everyone should read it. It's called Dress Codes for Small Towns.
Oh, yes.
It's written by Courtney Stevens. And oh my gosh, it's an experience.
It's such a good book.
You can't even define a main character. There is a character that we follow, but it's about a group of friends that refer to themselves as the Hexagon. So there are 6 friends that their friendship is so strong and great between any of them that just a few could hang out, or all of us could hang out. And we focus on Billy, who is struggling with not only her identity as a human being, like she's getting a little older, going to high school, figuring out who she is, but she also has to struggle with gender identity and like her sexual identity, her sexual orientation. She doesn't know who she likes or what she likes or who she is. But she does know.
Exactly. I didn't.
She does know that she's pretty sure that she knows she's in love with 2 of her best friends, 2 of the Hexagon. So it's just an interesting tale of, like, what that means to her. Is she going to risk losing the friendships that she has, or what's she going to do with those feelings now that she's starting to define them?
Yep. And it's also a really good read, I think, for our area because our service area has a really interesting position. We are technically rural, and we serve a lot of folks who live, up the head of the holler, which is where most of us are from.
Yeah.
But we also have a much more urban and suburban environment here in places like Moorhead, where because of the university, because of the hospital and so forth, there's a much more diverse population than you might expect from, an Eastern Kentucky deep Appalachian community. And also there's a wide variety of age ranges. There are a lot more people in this area, even though it is, again, still technically, like, by the thinnest legal standard is rural. But, like, there's a lot of people here. And so it's kind of the best and the worst of both worlds. You have a lot of the big city conveniences, but you also have a lot of the small town charm. But you also have some of the problems that come with both of those too. Like the traffic is not always great.
No.
No.
And of course, we all know that person who's up in your business that think it's their business to be there and to know what it is. That's a small town thing. And so this is a great exploration of that environment, like kind of straddling two worlds and not having all the answers, but having big questions. And they're common questions that a lot of people have, but actually, this is going to sound like a weird comparison, but hang with me. It reminds me of the movie Footloose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, like, a guy comes into town and he sees this small town has some really weird rules. They've got some hang-ups, right? And to him, of course, as an outsider, he's thinking, what's the problem? This is crazy. Why are you acting like this? And of course, there's a story behind it. But in Dress Codes for Small Towns, it strikes me as kind of that they picked the title for a reason. When you talk about dress codes for small towns, it's the idea in this story of you have to act in a certain way, you have to fit into a certain mold, and this friend group already doesn't.
Yeah.
And the characters that we follow through that story certainly don't. And they are in that unusual position of they have very normal questions that people have regardless of where you come from. But because they live in a fairly small town, they don't have access to all of the answers or all of the life experiences that could give them the answers. And so that's why, like, it's a story about struggle and personal development and overcoming because of the environment in which the story takes place. And I think that makes it very true to life and very relatable.
I'm glad you brought up the town that they live in, because I can't believe I didn't mention that.
Yeah.
I think that anyone listening to this podcast would most likely find the town that they live in very relatable. It reminds me a lot of Moorhead. I'm from Greenup County originally, and it reminds me a lot of back there. They have something called a corn festival going on in this book at the time the book is taking place. And there's going to be like a corn queen or a harvest queen.
Right, which of course we all know the tobacco festival, the sorghum festival, the apple festival.
It's so relatable.
Yeah. That's a very familiar scene.
This group of kids that we're following is a very well-known group of kids because our main character, Billy, is the daughter of the preacher. So, like, it's that kind of a small town.
Footloose. What did I say? Footloose.
Good point.
So yeah, no, they're all very good books. The ones that I've read, I definitely also recommend, and the ones that I haven't read, I'm gonna.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I'm sold.
Yeah,
I'm sold on them.
Absolutely.
I'm a good picker.
Well, you are. You and Emery and everybody always have good choices. That's one of the things I love most about staff picks, because we've talked about this before. Part of what we do is we give reading recommendations. To patrons, but staff picks are like, we're giving a broader reading recommendation that we're putting out for the whole community. So we're not just saying like, I know you personally, you would enjoy this because you've read A, B, and C, so you should read this too.
Yeah.
Instead, this is like, no, these are books everyone should read. And they tell you a lot about us as librarians as well, and there's always good stuff on that shelf, so be sure to come check it out. What did you pick?
So, I was inspired by the fact that you did the sweet and sour kind of right around Halloween. So I was thinking I should obviously do some kind of a horror novel for my sour. And then for my sweet, I wanted to do something like really, really cutesy. So I was thinking manga. So if anyone doesn't know who Junji Ito is, he is an amazing horror manga author, and I have been on such a Junji Ito kick.
He's a whole artist.
Yes.
He is one entire artist.
Yeah. So then I decided kind of for my theme for Sweet and Sour, I would do opposite love stories. So I chose Tomoe by Junji Ito, which is kind of a love story in a really horrible way.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
In the worst way. It's kind of a lot of love stories put together.
Oh my gosh.
And then to contrast that, I did the manga Kamisama Kiss because it's very light and cute, and it does kind of hint at some heavier themes here and there, but that makes the love story in it even better because you see how they overcome that and try to put that aside to be together anyways.
I like that.
Yeah, no, I think that a good romance, we can probably all agree, is kind of like a good comedy, is that a lot of times it is not just balanced out, but even maybe defined by moments of drama. So even if you don't want the whole thing to be a really heavy story, the good parts and the lighter parts hit better. They stick the landing when you show the other side of it. So that's a good bookend to put at the other end of that spectrum because Tomoe
gotta have something.
There's not a lot of comedy in that story.
No, when I described it as a love story, people are like, whoa.
Well, hey, it's important to remember love can be toxic.
It sure can.
A lot of us who have been stuck at home during quarantine, people have said, so like, I'm perfectly happy at home, but I have a friend who is a family law attorney and he does a lot of divorces. And he's done a lot more since COVID shut people up inside.
I feel like I believe that.
I'm not surprised.
Well, we're changing our reference section around. We're changing how we display those books and how we offer them to people. And our perennial reference shelf up here near the door is actually about to become the new home of a new special collection because we received a very kind, wonderful donation of the entire works of Louis L'Amour.
Oh my God.
Who is perhaps the single most famous author of Western fiction in the world, and certainly a cornerstone of American literature, of 20th century American literature. And so we have a beautiful leather-bound copy or library of his entire works that's going to go over there. But before, when that shelf had things on it like, the Consumer's, what's it called? Consumer's Digest or something like that.
Guides,
Consumer Guides. Of course, we had dictionaries, some encyclopedias, things like that. One of the things that lived over there pretty much all the time that was kind of, it's like on an easel, turned so you could see it really easily when you came at the shelf, like this is a book we know circulates, was How to Do Your Own Divorce.
Oh my goodness.
And every time I saw that, I thought it was so funny and I would laugh and then I would be like, oh, and I'm sad now.
I mean, aptly titled book. It will get you exactly where you need to go.
It will.
Well, I have seen a lot of kind of do your own divorce books around here lately that I have thought about checking out and gifting to a friend to read for a while.
Well, and 'tis the season because the holidays are coming up. And a lot of times you feel pressured, you feel stressed, things start to crack right around Christmas time.
No heavy implications, but here's a bunch of divorce books.
Yeah.
This means nothing.
Exactly.
Don't read into it.
Yeah.
Read into it.
Yeah, like this is like, don't take this the wrong way, but please take this the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Like, I wish you all the happiness in the world, which starts with reading this book.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
We all know somebody. No, so those are great staff picks, though. I feel there's a sour staff pick, How to Do Your Own Divorce, and
That's
an
extra for you.
Or maybe it's a sweet one, depending on who checks it out.
That's true.
No judgment. No judgment. As a notary, I've had to do divorce documents before, and you can always tell a difference between people who come in and they're like very, it's obviously a stressful time.
For sure.
They're feeling the weight of it. Maybe you can tell visibly that they are upset while this is happening. They might not want to be with the other person who has to sign the papers. Like they're not getting along. And then I was privileged once to have some folks come in who were like, no, we tried it and we're just better as friends and it's cool. And they, it was totally, they weren't worried about who was getting the house or the car or how they were splitting the stuff. They didn't have any kids, and they were just like, no, we just want to go back to being friends.
It's always best in any situation to be as civil as possible.
Oh yes,
absolutely.
lot
of people are not.
Yeah.
I just love that kind of love, though. The love that was there and was strong, and now it's possible for us to turn around and walk away.
You're both just mature.
For some reason,
there's a maturity about it.
Exactly. It's the maturity. There are some of the best books and some of the best TV shows have a moment with a horrible breakup that could have gone so much worse.
Oh, yeah.
And I love, just exposing myself to those healthy moments. Because I guess in real life, maybe not every breakup is going to be healthy. Yeah. But when you find one that is, you'll never stop loving that person.
Oh, yeah. Well, because, we love can be toxic. Relationships can be bad. They can be unhealthy. And, of course, if you're in that situation and you're listening, just quick plug here. We've got resources for that.
We love you.
Yes, you're not alone. But it's also great when we see that, we don't often talk about this. We don't have frank discussions about it. But, love can evolve. Maturity, I think, is the right word because that implies growth. And we can acknowledge that, and it doesn't have to ruin what we already had. It doesn't have to make things awkward.
I think people should be prepared too, Sometimes people are together for 60 years, but sometimes people are together for, 60 years and they both change and grow a lot and grow apart. And that happens too, which is also completely fine.
Exactly. And of course, if you've been together for 60 years, there can't be anything, whether that is a partner, whether that is a favorite book or a movie or a novel, video game, anything, have it be part of your life for that long and not have it leave a weight, it leaves a depression, a shape on you, it changes you, and you feel something when it leaves or when it is no longer available, when it exits your life. And so if that happens, if you are in a position to feel good about it and to take something positive away from it, then that's really awesome. And that's kind of like what we were talking about. Every ending is a beginning, it can be bittersweet. But just like the books that we're talking about, it can be something that shows the beginning of a new chapter, and that this character is moving on. You are the protagonist of your own story.
Yeah.
I would hate to think that I was a side character in somebody else's. Sometimes you feel that way,
I want to be a main character in my story and other people's.
Yeah.
How do I get that main character energy?
I think that's called celebrity.
Oh.
Yeah. I think you either have to get a TikTok account or you have to get elected to something.
As far as anime and manga go, with your hair, you're the main character for sure.
Oh, I like that. I'm gonna
there you go.
Live by anime standards from now on.
Oh man, if only we could all live by anime standards. Phew, imagine. No, I couldn't be trusted with superpowers.
I'd like to say that I could, but I doubt it.
Well, I think all of us have a filter, but my mother always taught me growing up. She had a very wise saying: the first thing that you think is how you grew up or how you were raised, what you were taught. The second thing that you think is who you really are as a person.
I like that. I like that a lot.
And many are the times when we have to acknowledge our own prejudices or biases or our own nasty, bits of ourselves that other people put there, that they tacked onto us, because you don't learn negative things except through experience or imitation.
Yeah.
And you think something unkind or you think something that is, that is untrue, and then you stop yourself and you go, no. That's not how it is. That's not, that's not the answer. That's not the way to react. That's really the measure of who you are as a person. But sometimes the negative initial thoughts do slip out. And I don't know that I want to possess super strength or super speed or eye lasers when I think that first thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes it'd be like, someone says something, rude to you, or someone shows up late to an event, and you're just,
that
no.
second thought would be full of regret.
Exactly.
Sure.
Oh no, I'm so. Oh, was that?
I might have been a little quick to act.
Yeah, like you're getting out at the grocery store and someone is double parked. And your first thought is unkind, and your second thought is, "Oh my gosh, that car!
No.
What have I done? Better leave the scene."
It's a good thing Matilda was such a chill person.
Yeah.
Oh goodness gracious, that's one of my favorite books.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Mara Wilson, the actress who played Matilda in the film, is one of my favorite celebrities. Speaking of celebrities, Roald Dahl is an author that, as I have grown into adulthood myself, I have discovered is sometimes surrounded by controversy or tainted by controversy. But his books are definitely one of those that leave a mark on you. And Matilda, I think, is a very formative, positive story. And the movie is so good.
Oh gosh, I know. So many of them, though. You're right. He's an author that stands out and leaves behind an impact. Mm-hmm. If you have to separate the art from the artist, because the art here is worth it. Yeah, it is. It's very, well, like I said, formative. Kind of like we've discussed before Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people whose lives were genuinely changed by those books, were shaped by those books.
Oh yeah.
And then, of course, things happen. People change, or they show you who they really are, have been the whole time, and they say those unkind things, and sometimes they say the first thing and they don't stop to have that second thought, and then you have to have a conversation about oh, wow, can I keep loving those books? And that kind of takes us back, I think, to the sweet and sour theme, is that can be bittersweet, and maybe that's something now that's going to exit your life and it's going to leave an impact, and you have to grow past those things, or you have to find a way to hang on to them in a healthy way that isn't toxic for you or for the people around you, which is something that we all struggle with, when you find out you have a problematic fave. Life's a journey. Life is a journey, and all we can hope is that, when one chapter closes, the next one is just beginning, which is a great segue into what we are doing for November, which is a complete mystery. That book has yet to be opened. We're hoping to go back to in-person programming, at least some. The weather has been nice. Maybe we'll do something outside, but we're all sick of distance and digital and virtual programming and events. We're sick of not seeing the people that we love, our community, our neighbors, come into the library and getting to interact with them in person, or feeling the entire time like, everybody's kind of got the kid gloves on, like it's got to stand 6 feet apart. And it's great to see people wearing their masks. It's great when folks are like, "No, I'm vaccinated. Don't worry, I got my shot." Mm-hmm. But even as you're social distancing, it creates an element that wasn't there in the interaction before, where I think that's one of the things that maybe has made us all so tired, is I feel like I'm constantly holding people, whether you care about them or whether they're strangers, at arm's length.
Oh yeah, same.
And it gets exhausting, to stretch the metaphor as far as possible. Just try holding your arm out in front of you for a long time. Eventually it gets tired, and it becomes painful.
Whether you're acknowledging it or not, it's kind of, you're always having a slightly stressful interaction with every person.
Exactly. Even if that is an unconscious element to it, it's like, I like this person, I'm enjoying this interaction, but also we do have to stand 6 feet apart, which means I have to slightly raise my voice, and then I have to raise it again to be heard through my mask and understood, because it's going to muffle me, and the lower half of my face is hot and sweaty. It's all uncomfortable. It's just not like it used to be. And so, we try to stay as safe as possible. We want you to stay as safe as possible, but we also want to be open and to offer as many services as we can and to help y'all, because now we need it more than ever. That's true. We need this togetherness, and we need a sense of community more than ever, and we want to try and prop that up and to empower that. And so in November, I don't want to make any promises, because everything, as always, remains subject to cancellation and postponement. Mm-hmm. I do know this. We are for sure not having our holiday open house celebration this year. which is very sad. But it's just too much because, there's a difference between having 4, 5, 6, or even 10 people in a room together, sharing the same air in a closed or confined space, and even that being a risk. And then having 200 to 500 people or 1,000 people.
It's always a lot.
Yeah, because people come in here, they pack in crowds. Some of them stay the whole time, and then many others, dozens or scores of others that don't stay the whole time. They still come and go and are part of the event. And a lot of them are children, who can't get vaccinated, for example. And a lot of them are people who are going to be, it's flu season is starting. Cold season is starting. Schools went back into operation, which means, of course, we're all still dealing with I don't know what to call. I think of con crud. Where like when you go to a gaming or a comic convention or an anime convention or something, and you always come back sick because somebody there had something. So 24
we all shared it on some level.
Exactly. So even if everyone didn't get sick, it's just because everyone's vulnerable to different things. So like if the 3 of us go, I might get sick, you might get sick, and Jordan, you be fine because you just, whatever that particular bug was, you were resistant to it. You didn't pick it up. And that's what we have to think about is if we're going to have 1,000 people in here listening to music and eating catered food and doing an event, somebody's going to be resistant to it, but not everybody. And so we just can't. We want to, but we can't. But what we can do, maybe, is writer's workshop and teen anime club and technology classes and board game nights. And we'll go back to doing on board and things like that. We can do story times. Hopefully, we won't promise all of those things, but we would like to do some of them. So we'll see, and we will have more news. Keep an eye out. And of course, if you're not already following us on social media, follow us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Do all that stuff. Follow us on Goodreads. We have reading recommendations. And of course, if you're listening to this, you're probably already following us on YouTube. But if you're not, it's free, like everything else we do. Now's the time. Like this video, turn on notifications so you'll hear when we upload another episode of the podcast, that kind of stuff. Make a playlist. It's cool. Whatever you want to do to engage, we recommend. We'll hopefully have more news for you when we come back with the next episode, which, of course, is going to be on November the 6th. And I hope by then we will have something more concrete to share. But everything's always still changing every 5 to 10 minutes, it is stressful.
But no matter what happens, even if we're not here physically, we'll always provide you with digital programming and digital content.
Absolutely. And we are blessed to have a drive-through.
Oh, yes.
Which has been a big help. Not every library has one of those. So we haven't had to go to like curbside service. The drive-through has been a big help. So, yeah, don't forget to engage those digital services if you're not already trying it. Use Overdrive or Libby. Check out Hoopla. Check out Freeding. And be sure to check out all the other stuff on our digital resources page on our website, which is rowancountylibrary.org. Now, remember, it's rowancountylibrary.org. Okay?
Not .gov.
Yes, not .gov. Because if you go to the .gov website, you're not going to the Rowan County Public Library. You're going to the Rowan County Library.
I didn't know that.
So
I didn't know that
that's
either.
North Carolina.
Yes. So again, as always, Salisbury, we love you. And if you call and you ask about your books, we do have a phone number we can send you where someone can actually help you. But check out our website and check out all of those digital services where you can, if you need study help, we've got tutor.com.
That one is great as a college student. I literally just heard about that today. I'm incredibly excited about that.
Yeah, well, that's why we keep telling people is, not everybody always knows what we offer, and we want to make sure that you know. So check that out. Yeah. Check out Mango Languages if you're learning a new language, if you're getting ready to go on a trip. Met somebody new, making friends at college or in high school or something like that. You can learn a language for free. Check out all of those services. Let us know if you need help with them. Of course, we are always happy to help, either in person or over the phone. And until next time, thank you for listening. We appreciate you all being here. As always, I'm Morgan.
I'm Atlanta.
And I'm Jordan.
And this has been The Reading Room, the podcast brought to you by your Rowan County Public Library.